Hey, Joes. This episode of G.I. Joe, a Royal American Headcast, is being sponsored by Big Danny Cool. Thanks, Danny.
This is Zartan, and you're listening to G.I. Joe, a real American headcast.
Crashing through the sky comes a fearful cry. Cobra! Armies of the night, evil taking flight. Cobra! Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Panic spreading far and wide. Who can turn the tide? G.I. Joe! American hero! G.I. Joe! There! G.I. Joe! American hero! G.I. Joe there! Fighting for freedom wherever there's trouble over land and sea and air. G.I. Joe is there!
G.I. Joe, the Real American Headcast, is the code name for Aaron's daring, highly trained headcast. Its purpose? To podcast about G.I. Joe, fighting Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world.
G.I. Joe is there, fighting for freedom wherever there's trouble over land and sea and air. G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe.
Welcome, Joes, to G.I. Joe, a Royal American Headcast, episode number 55. I am your host, Aaron Brotherhead Moss. And, well, I'm not alone. Joining me today, well, it's a small group in here today. Joining me today, we have Kevin, Raider Nerd, Reitzel. Hey, Kevin.
What is up? I'm excited for this one, man. Thanks for having me on. This is cool.
Yeah, I think I was threatened with threats of death and lawsuits, and I didn't have you either. So,
I think in our contract there are certain issues you were not allowed to cover unless I was there, no matter what happens.
Yes.
And this is one of them. That was the first one right there, number 43, and number 55. That was definitely one. You know, because you and I have a personal connection to this issue for reasons we'll get into. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Yes. In fact, I see you're assassin outside. You can call him off. You're on. The show's going.
Back away. How you doing, brother?
Doing good. Good to have you on. Like I say, everyone else is busy today, but I know this one, as you just said, you know, this is a very special episode, a very special cover, very special issue for me and you. So I'm definitely glad I got you on. So let's go and talk about some G.I. Joe, Royal American Hero. So first up, this is G.I. Joe number 55, titled Unmaskings. As we see here on the screen, I do have a signed copy of this one, thanks to...
What? Oh my God. How did that happen?
I forget who it was. Some guy got me... Hang on a second. Some guy got me a signed copy from... I don't know who this guy is in the picture, but this guy was going around signing books, and so this one got...
That is Larry Hama signing number 55 Unmaskings and Cobra Reborn issue. That's 100, right?
No, it's 58.
Oh, 58. Okay, that's right. Sorry. I was thinking of the other cover. Yeah. 58. Yeah. One says to Aaron, yo, Joe. Oh my God, look at that. It got personally signed. Look at that.
Signed. I love that. And we'll talk about that more here in a couple of months when we get to it. But yeah, and then the other one's signed by Larry, which I love.
So I knew how much these issues meant to you. And this was at the last G.I. Joe con in, I think it was in Tennessee. Okay. Chattanooga. That's right. And it was the last official G.I. Joe con. Larry Hama was signing. Basically, he was signing for free at this particular booth. And
very
he was taking pictures with him and stuff like that. And I had to hook you up, brother. I had to hook you up. You've been
and
so kind and good to me, allowing me to talk and nerd out with GI Joe. It was the least I can do, and was able to send those to you. And let's talk about this real quick before we talk about. I think how important this issue is, 55. Why were these two important to you? I think you should tell your viewers and listeners there.
Yeah. So again, as I said, 50, as I've talked about many times before, I'm sure people are tired of it by now, but issue 58 was the first one I bought off the stand that basically got me into buying comics.
The one Cobra Reborn there, right?
Yes. Yes. I've always been a fan of comic books in general, but I never really was a buyer of them. I'd pick them up at yard sales here and there. I get like some Fantastic Fours and this and that, but I was a fan of the G.I. Joe cartoon from day one. So as I've talked about, that's what got me into G.I. Joe. And I wasn't familiar with the comic. I knew of it. As I've talked about previously, I was at my cousin's house back in Nebraska, and he had issue, I think it was 30 that I read. I'd play with his toys. So after I left his house, I started buying the toys. And
you realized your cousin was onto something there.
Yes. So I was out to dinner or lunch with my mother and some of her friends one day. And right next door, there was a Thrifties. So after I got done eating, I went, well, I'm going to go look around the store while I'm waiting on you guys. So I went.
Love my Thrifties. I miss them.
And again, I wasn't a little kid. I was like 16, 17 years old at the time. So I'm older. And so I go into the store, I'm looking around, and I browse through the comic racks. Because again, I've always loved superheroes. So I'm going to look through it. And I see this cover of G.I. Joe, number 58. And I don't know who that guy in the bed is. I didn't know about Billy at this point. I've seen Cobra Commander Reborn. I know Cobra Commander. And I knew that was his new battle armor. I'm like, well, is that Cobra Commander in the bed? Did he get injured? He's been rebuilt or something? I have to buy this. And one thing led to another. And I started going to the comic shop looking for back issues. And I started picking up other comics that looked interesting. And here I am today with thousands and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever in comics. And then the 55, we were at a long defunct store called Kmart.
Oh, Kmart. Oh, that would loved my Kmart back in the day.
The blue light specials and everything. Yes. I was at a Kmart looking around, and they had a 3-pack of comics. And the one that on the front, they showed 2 of the comics, and the third one was mystery. The first side was issue 51 with the Thunder Machine. And this was on the other side, the ones I could see. The other comic in there was issue 53 with the Snake Eyes head on it. But yeah, I saw this Unmaskings. Again, being a big fan of the cartoon, I'm like, oh, they show what they look like in here. I've got to buy this. We don't see what they actually look like, but it's kind of a misleading a little bit there. But no, I picked it up, and again, I do love the as we've talked about. I mean, you've talked about this many times. The Cobra Commander Incognito and the Destro. I love those images. So, and as I said, I really love your cosplay on it. So,
oh well, yeah, we'll touch on that later. I got a fun story about that. Yeah,
but yeah, so that's why.
Okay.
And I know you asked me, what issues I really like, which covers, and these, and my top 5 or top 5, these 2 here. So
I also have a G.I. Joe Unmasking signed by Larry Hama, but I got this signed a lot later than when originally this comic came out. Now, this comic is very special to me for a reason, not only because Larry Hama signed it, but I got this particular issue when it was brand new off the shelf. And I went to my local comic book store at the time because it was called Andromeda Books and Comics. And they had just recently moved to a new location in town. And they were kind of celebrating the reopening of it. And they had a very special guest signing comics for free. And because this Unmaskings was a new issue at the time, I had my original G.I. Joe #1 that I wanted to get signed by this special guest. And the special guest, you might be able to see the name right there. What does that say?
John Johnson.
Nice try. Nice try.
Very nice.
On the inside cover, Stan Lee signed it. Now, you'll notice the date on it. He put the date on it, September 20th, 1986, even though if you look at the comic, it's dated January 87. And they did that. They would always release these earlier than what actually says on here as well. So I wish you would have signed the front, but I didn't really think about it at the time, but I was happy to have this. And he also signed the inside of, I believe, the G.I. Joe #1 as well. But then first time I met Larry Hama, which was at Dragon Con, I had him sign the cover of this one and my #1 as well. So this is one of my treasures here, because I don't have a lot of stuff signed by Stan Lee, but I do have the trading card out of the superhero collection that he did, where he was, as an artist, made a superhero version of Stan Lee. I had him sign that one as well. So I have a couple of things. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. I had a chance to see him once in Fresno, but the room got filled before I got a chance to get there, and they closed it off before I got a chance to get in. So that close from being able to see Larry live, or Stan Lee live, I mean, but very nice. But yeah, anyway, so this is G.I. Joe number 55, as we've been talking about. The cover, for those that are listening, it's up on the screen for those that are watching. It's called Unmaskings. Basically, it's got the G.I. Joe logo. Right underneath it says Unmaskings. And we get Cobra Commander, Destro, and Snake Eyes all pulling their masks off. Cobra Commander, Snake Eyes are pulling their hoods off, and Destro is removing the front of his metal mask, which my only, in quotes, complaint is that it's kind of misleading. That
Okay, well, let's talk about that, because that's a big deal. As we've gotten older, Aaron, we look back on this with a lot of fondness. But when this first came out, it was a great, like, yeah, we got you. And there was some of us that were kind of pissed off, because we're like, oh, we get to finally see what these guys look like. But looking back on it, though, it was a great move. You know, you tease the people, you're selling the cover. You're like, and you're like, I got to read this. I got to open it up, you know. And like, did you try to like look for the panel before you read the comic? Do you remember that?
No, I was willing. I wanted to wait it out and then find out as I read the story. But
okay,
the only thing that's really misleading technically, because they do unmask, is here. Destro looks like he's got as bald as I am. When actually if he pulls the mask off inside, we actually see hair. So
right.
That's the only rule.
Yeah, that was a big. A lot of people complained about that. I think we'll probably read about that later in the post office box to pit on later episodes. Like, come on, you guys, didn't give us the goods, and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I was going to pick up anyways is G.I. Joe, but that was definitely interested in this set because we could see what they look like. Well, not really.
I'm carefully bagging my Stanley signed one here, making sure I don't mess it up.
Not going to roll up and hit your back pocket?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to pull a Brad Abraham on this one.
But anyway, so that's the cover. I said the background's a orange or red. Depends on which one you have, it looks like. Newsstand one looks like more of an orange, and the direct edition was a red one. Look more red to me.
Yeah.
So
I've got a newsstand version right here, and this is the one I'll be opening up and playing with.
That's what I have too. I don't think this is the one I bought in the bag. I think I bought this one later on. So I've actually got two of them. I got this one, and then I've got one. I don't have my pictures hanging up right now, but I've got it framed, the signed copy. I've got it framed to hang on my wall. So
nice, very nice.
I pulled everything down so my middle son can move back home with his girlfriend, and I just haven't finished getting things back up yet. But it's definitely in the frame right over here next to me, in fact, ready to go back up on the wall. Again, we've kind of talked about the cover, so let's go ahead and go straight to get some ratings on this. If you guys aren't familiar with the show, we rate this on a scale of 1 to 5 Yojo Colas. So, Kevin, out of 1 to 5 Yojo Colas.
It's definitely a 5.
Yes.
I think I gave issue 43 an 11 or a 15, I think. But this one, if we're going to stick in the parameters, it's definitely a 5.5. Because, I mean, look, it's so iconic. And this is one of those that if I see in the wild somewhere, like even in not so good condition, I'm picking it up, like I did recently at my local comic book shop. If I have that one here. Yeah, here I did. I had this one here. This one was on sale for like $5 and I bought it, So it's a newsstand version. You're going to pick it up. For that. Yes. There's few that fall under that one, and it's such an iconic one. Everyone remembers what happened in this one, whether they were disappointed or not, and it's done so well. You have these three main masked characters, even though it's not a scene in the movie or in the comic, it gives the message, and it's just done really, really well.
Yes, no, I agree, 100%. I agree with everything you said. I give it a 5 or a 5.5, maybe a 6 even. Just because,
and the fact that you have unmaskings on the cover is even better.
Yes. Yes, definitely. But yeah, I do like you said everything. I mean, I do like they kind of tease, hey, we're going to show what these characters look like finally. And the only one we really get a good look at is Cobra Commander, which we'll talk about in the comic as we go through
Yeah.
the comic. But yeah, no, I definitely give it a 5.5 at a minimum.
Such an iconic. It's one of the most famous GI Joe real American hero comics. Definitely.
Well, I'm surprised actually that it has been homaged more. I don't know if I've really seen anything like this, but I'm surprised that more haven't homaged it because I say it's to me, and maybe just us, but yeah, it seems like it's a very famous cover.
Well, when I remember when my friends at the GI Joe Finest Costume Club on the main Facebook group, when they posted this picture, where were you? Do you remember when this first came out? Blah blah blah. The comments were amazing. So many people have personal stories of when they first saw this, when they first read it, feeling maybe a little gypped. They didn't get the full payoff all the time, but it was such a monumental moment for GI Joe comics.
Right. Oh, definitely. Let me see. The cover date on this was January of 1987, as we talked about previously, but the on sale date was October the 7th, 1986. Cover price, 75 cents. The title was Unmaskings. As normal, written by Larry Hama. Pencilers Rod Wiggum. Inker Andy Muschinsky. Letterer Joseph Rosen. Colorist George Roussos. The cover was done by Mike Zeck.
Zeck, Mike Zeck. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, I was going to throw this. I've only got the Baby Zeck. I don't have no Zeck by itself. So,
Baby Zeck.
and the editor was Bob Harris. So, Kevin, do you have thoughts on this issue?
Do you want to do the quick little rundown of the plot? Because I have a quick one here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I forgot.
I got it ready if you want me to give you the quick one.
Yeah, go ahead. I forgot to write down synopsis. I put a spot for synopsis, and then I put
got it right here. Yeah,
go ahead.
Got it on yojo.com. The short version. In Sierra Gordo, Stalker leads a rescue of Snake Eyes. As they are freeing him, Stalker is shot. Snake Eyes elects to cover the team as they evacuate him. He doesn't return with the team. Cobra Commander and Destro escape the destroyed pit, then using their disguises to make their way across New York. A policeman recognizes Cobra Commander and tells his son Billy is alive. Dun, dun, dun.
What?
And the major players are the Joes, Beachhead, Grunt, Leatherneck, Lowlight, Snake Eyes, and Stalker. Additional Joe appearances are Clutch, Hawk, and Duke. For Cobra, you got Baroness, Cobra Commander, Destro, Mindbender, Serpentor, Tomac, Saymont, Dreadnought, Zartan, Zorana, Xandar, Buzzer, Ripper, and Torch. And then some additional characters, envoys from Sierra Gordo, counter-revolutionaries of Sierra Gordo, and the chaplain's assistant, Percy, and of course, Billy.
Percy. So let's get some thoughts on this. Unless I miss anything else, which I tend to do. So, Kevin, what are your thoughts on this issue?
I'm going to talk. Go ahead and as I'm talking, go ahead and start showing the pages here. And if you're listening to this podcast, make sure you check out the video because we actually have pictures of all of the issue pages here. So obviously this issue is more famous for the unmaskings of three famous characters, but you forget about some of the other cool points of this comic book. And one of the things I forgot about, and it was nice to be reminded of this, is Grunt is retiring, basically, the original Joe. And when I first read this, there was a part of me that was a little sad. Do you know why, Aaron?
I know we've talked about you like Grunt because he was one of the original Joes, and he
was my first GI Joe toy.
There you go.
And the reason why he was my first GI Joe toy, because this is before I really got my head wrapped around the whole GI Joe team. Grunt looked like a normal American soldier. And I was gravitated towards that just because I remember the large 12-inch dolls, but of course he looked like someone that could have popped out of World War II, popped out of the jungles of Vietnam. He had that original look. He had the M16, and I was a little sad that he retired in this. But I'm like, you go. I like that they showed that. I thought that was kind of cool. And obviously, too, I love how Sierra Gordo is like that. And we talked about it before. It's like that fake country that movies use, like Commando does. Right. Movie Commando, and it's been used in other films of action that takes. I think Predator took place in that fake country as well, which I thought was kind of funny. And then we also get Cobra like showcasing their New York skyscraper, which I thought was really cool. And then you get Snake Eyes just putting on the low light or starlight scope that what was it, Low Light was using, and he gives like firing cover. He looks so badass holding the guns after Stalker gets injured. Just some, yeah, right there. Go back.
Back one. There we are.
Yeah, that one right there. I love that page right there. It's just Snake Eyes just looks so bad. And then you got like the sound effects like thump 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 crump 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 rat tat tat thump thump.
Yeah.
That's just really cool. And then if you can go back, I love how you learn more about Cobra Commander, and they're in a bright yellow Corvette trying to be incognito.
Yes.
Wouldn't you choose like a early Toyota Corolla or something like that? But like, nah, let's.
But if you're gonna escape in style.
Yes, exactly, yes. And I don't move this slide, but I like that one other shot too, where you see. I love that you get Low Light highlighting this. He's the sniper.
Yes.
And I love snipers in movies and comics, and I love the fact that you get to see him in work here with getting a Cobra in his crosshairs. It looks like he gets a nice little neck shot in there as well. So this episode has a lot to offer. And then of course at the very end you learned about Billy, and you get a really interesting, kind of sad, you're kind of feeling bad for Cobra Commander moment when he learns about Billy and he's questioning his fatherhood and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you forget how good this issue is outside the fact that you got teased you're going to see what these guys look like. This is a solid issue for many reasons.
Very much so, yes. I agree 100% with you on that.
What are your thoughts?
So, my thoughts on this. I do like here on the first page how, Cobra Commander's kind of freaking out and Destro's keeping his cool. It's very much in character for them. I mean,
I like that they find the tunneling machine that was pretty smart to have at the bottom of a building called the Pit, just in case it collapses.
Well, that's why Destro says, well, there must be some way for them to dig them way out.
And I thought this would be a cool toy to have. And if I remember correctly, didn't they have something like this for like the new G.I. Joe movie toys? I felt like there was some burrowing type machine that they made that wasn't in the movie or something. I seem to remember they made it. I can't remember.
I wanted to say it was a Cobra device, I wanted to say.
Yeah.
It came with some new Cobra troopers or something that, we didn't see in the movie.
A smart thing to have at the bottom of the pit for something called the Pit.
Yes. And real quick, Heinz joins us in the chat. Hey, Heinz, glad you could join us, buddy.
What's going on, Heinz? Good to have you.
As you talked about previously, we have Grunt retiring, or however the proper phrase is, leaving the Joes. And we talk about over on Bravo Team, which hasn't been released yet, during the Order of Battle, I made a mention how his figure looks much older than I think he is.
Right.
And I understand where you're coming from, how, he's supposed to be like the original kind of Joe and the classic Joe character. This is one of my first experiences with Grunt in the comics, and just the way he's drawn here. And I think he said he's going back to college or something like that. That's what makes me think he's younger than the way his figure looks. A great figure, but
I could see that, but I could see him as an older person wanting to go back to college because he missed it because of his years in the military. The thing I'm having trouble remembering is, did he get much burn in the comics? He might have been with like groups and stuff like that, but I don't think we really got a good Grunt storyline, did we?
I don't think we did. Yeah, he wasn't used very much in the comic. He shows, I mean, he's leaving the Joes, but again, I was gonna say he's not dead, so he can come back.
Right.
Even dead characters come back, but I know he does come back later on. He does show up to help out occasionally. So, But yeah, and I do like their who's that, Clutch, saluting him as he leaves,
showing some respect. I love that. Yeah.
You can tell they got a friendship and a bond that, he's just like,
when we read these comics, we learn about the military because it's written so well. It's written realistically when it comes to certain points like this. And this was a scene that I was just like, oh, okay, you don't see this a lot in movies or TV, and I thought this was just a cool human scene. This guy lives, he doesn't die. And he's just like, you know what? I'm retiring. I got my papers. I'm going to go, I'm going to go better myself and learn. That was great.
Yes. And that's when we all love the cartoons we talk about all the time. But yeah, the Larry being a military man himself, we got a bit more realism with Larry through the comics. So yeah, like you said, it's fantastic the way Larry does that. So
Yeah.
again, they're talking about trying to find out what Flint knows and how the brainwave scanner is not working properly. If he's able to defeat it, and Baroness, she loves her old school torture.
Yeah, I feel like Mindbender just has the brain scanner like packed away in luggage somewhere. So whenever he needs it, he just pops it out. But I love how we get the throwback to the Terradrome in Rio Lindo or whatever they're at here. Sierra Gordo, because we talked about it in the last issue, how like, those three dictators are like, yeah, I want to buy more. I want to buy more. So yeah.
Very much
the torture device is like, yep, let's do that.
Yeah. As you mentioned, the Cobra Consolidate. Let me see real quick. My notes on.
Is it Citadel? Is that what they call it?
Cobra Consolidate. What are
they? Consulate. Yeah.
And diplomatic immunity. Can't even say it. But yeah.
Diplomatic immunity. Yeah.
Thank you. That was a hard word for me.
Diplomatic immunity.
It's just been revoked.
It's basically a whatchamacallit, not a consulate, but where countries have their own building in other countries. What's that called? Embassy. It's an embassy, basically.
Yes. Yeah, because
they can get away with stuff.
Cobra's got his own country now, and they're just making it more official. And I do like how, because our town's like, it's almost like we're official or, legal. And he's like, that's what we need to do. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, maybe they can start printing their own currency. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure you've seen The Distinguished Gentleman with Eddie Murphy.
Yes. Yeah.
He's a con man. He ends up going and becoming a congressman or senator, whatever it was. At the very end, when he's confessing, he's like, yeah, I've done this. The only difference between what I've done now and what I've done before I came here is all this crap I'm doing now is legal.
Yes.
So pretty much, it's make it legal. You get away with a lot. My next note is on here, is right here, the famous scene of Destro and Cobra Commander incognito when they're changing to the clothes and Destro's putting on the beard and.
Yeah, I love the style choices that they chose here. And I'm going to talk about that later with a particular costume. But I love the style choices here because they're incognito, but yet Cobra Commander's got a long blue coat with a beret and dark sunglasses and the big handlebar mustache. And it looks like Destro's got like a red members only like jacket on there. And I can't quite figure. Yeah, it is. And then I was trying to figure out Cobra Commander's boots. Are they like red felt? I mean, what are they? Are they red suede boots?
Probably. With the rest of his costume and Cobra Commander being who he is, I could see them being red suede shoes or some boots or whatever.
Yeah. But I like how they come out of ground right in front of a shop with that burrower machine that they have.
Luckily, they came out in the right spot.
Right,
but here we're talking about the cover's kind of misleading, where we do see where he's Destro's taking his mask off, and we see a little bit of hair sticking out.
Yes.
Which shows that he's not bald.
And then Cobra Commander's got the ponytail, so he has long hair, right? And it's hiding.
Well, I'm not sure if that's what I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a wig or if it's a weave or something.
It's definitely he has longer hair because we see that in other issues, especially I think when he gets shot and stuff like that. So yeah, he definitely has the ponytail thing going on.
But I assume that's his real hair for the most part because we'll get that here in a minute when we're talking. We'll get to that. Again, we're going a little more detailed on this issue just because, it's Unmaskings. It's a fantastic issue.
This is.
A little bit closer scene here.
If you look though on the chair, you can see Destro's mask sitting on the chair, and you don't notice that right away, which I thought was kind of funny. It took me forever, and then you see Cobra Commander's metal helmet over to the right.
I did notice that too. I'm like, oh, fantastic! Yeah, he's got his helmet there. Got Cobra Commander or Destro's mask. They've got a makeup kit that's open on the desk there.
Yes, and you got to. I mean, okay, so look at Cobra Commander. He's got the blue coat. He's got like some type of red sweater vest. I'm sorry, yellow sweater vest with a matching belt. And then he's got the white dress shirt and tie underneath that, which was an 80s thing. And then you've got these pinstripe blue pants and these bright yellow or bright reddish felt looking shoes that match his red beret.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
come back to that later.
Yeah. On this page here, we have the Snake Eyes reveal
Yep.
in quotes.
And
and,
they take out. They're like, "Wait a minute, it's a rubber mask. What's going on here?" Yeah.
and I just like that horrified look on both their faces. And Baron is like, "Oh, like that ruined face. It's Snake Eyes."
Yes.
And I have my next notes on the same page when they're leaving. Mindbender's like, "We put this rag on his head so no one gets sick when they come in."
Right. Yes.
I love that. Just let me cover your face up, just so you know. It reminds me very much of what was that old cartoon character? Yuck. Was that it? The dog with the doghouse on his head? You remember that from your
I can't remember his name though. Yeah.
Yuck or something like that, where you'd take the helmet off and you'd see him behind him.
Yeah, put it back on. Put it back on.
Reminds me very much of the same type of thing. My next thought on this issue is we find a little more about Cobra Commander. I forget now, is this the first time we find out that he was a used car salesman?
Yeah.
I know that they mentioned his origins of starting the pyramid scheme back in the early days, but
Yeah.
I think this is where we first find out he's a used car salesman. And, he's like, I've got my original license on me. I filled out all the paperwork. We're legit.
But a yellow Corvette. The only thing I'm jealous is I want the yellow Corvette toy that comes with incognito figures of these guys. How cool would that be?
Hasbro, we need a classified version of Incognito Destro, Cobra Commander, and
Make
the
it
yellow
happen,
Corvette.
please. Oh, I'll die happy if that happens.
Yes, I would love to have. I'd love to have the armored Cobra Commanders we talked about previously.
Mhm.
I would love to have, some other figures, but yes, if they would do a Incognito Cobra Commander and Destro, I'd love that. And I do like this top panel where the girls are, oh, look at that cute guy. And like any guy in a yellow Corvette's cute to you or whatever.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, and then you mentioned the low light taking out the guards.
I loved the low light action there. I thought that was so cool. Yeah.
Next issue, we get the Cobra Commander pulled over, and we get to find out that his son is Billy. And again, so this is why I'm thinking that's probably his real hair, because the guy says without the mustache and the glasses, you look an awful like Billy. So I'm assuming, and before this, I always assumed that the CGs, when they got the operation become Freds, I thought maybe they're made to look like Cobra Commander.
Yeah, and when Cobra Commander gets shot in a later issue, he has the ponytail hair going.
Yeah, so I don't know if he left it on or if it's his, because he doesn't really change it. He still has that mustache. If I'm not mistaken, he has the mustache too.
Yeah, he does. Yep.
So I don't know. And when I first read this, I was a little confused because again, this was my first foray into G.I. Joe, the comic, and I know from the cartoon, I expected Cobra Commander to be deformed or something because I remember there was an episode where Destro came in where Cobra Commander had his mask off and he was eaten.
You're right.
And Destro comment, how disgusting, put your helmet on or whatever, put your mask on. Disgusting. So I'm like, what the heck? Okay. Well, and that's more about what first story. I guess they're different. And then the next note I have, I do like Stalker, recounting kind of their Vietnam days about how, he owes Snake Eyes and they're not leaving him behind.
Yeah, we get some good action scenes here, and it's kind of, especially okay. So you got Snake Eyes in disguise there. Is that right?
Which one's that?
Who is it?
Yeah.
On
the top panel?
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they have the hood over him. I was trying to see. I forgot who the Cobra was hitting the other Cobra with. Who that was?
Oh.
It was. I think it was one of the other Joes rescuing. That's right. It was rescuing Snake Eyes from the mind bender scanning machine again. So yeah.
One of the guards rush out and says, "You're not Wilson." And he's like, "Very astute. What do you do? Memorize eyebrows?"
Yeah, you know, right?
What was it? Was that Leatherneck on the mission?
I think so. Yeah, he had Leatherneck and.
Panel right below that, I found the lab. Snake Eye is here. That looks to me like Leatherneck, probably.
Yeah, it is, because they use Leatherneck's weapon. He uses Leatherneck's weapon later. But yeah, that flashback to Vietnam with Stalker was a really nice touch with this. I thought that was really cool.
Yes, fantastic.
And in the next one there, when Stalker gets hit with the fireman, that looks like that's deadly hit right there. We find out it's not, but man, seeing that, you're like, oh my God. That's a rough scene to watch.
Yeah, and again, I remember Stalker really good from the comics. So yeah, I'm like, are they gonna kill off Stalker? And again, that scene you mentioned earlier there on the second page with Snake Eyes holding the guns, just and all the firefight, and we cut away to the Joes, just seeing the explosions in the background.
Yeah, I love that. I love that scene, and especially when they say, "What's Snake Eyes doing?" He's mounting a low light starlight scope on Leatherneck's M16 M203 combo. I don't know what he needed the starlight scope for, because he's shooting him he's shooting both guns from the hip. But whatever,
Right.
It looked cool.
Yeah, just in case he needed it.
Yeah.
But again, I do my comment on this one. Yeah, we have Snake Eyes. He dies in quotes, taking out the Cobras, helping this team escape. He sacrificed himself to save the team that came in to save him. Is that irony?
Yeah, I know.
That's where it says that up for me. So
Leatherneck is one of those cool looking Joes. I feel like he was like the new grunt guy, because he had that really cool M16 with the under grenade launcher. And I want to give a shout out to my friend Steven out in Georgia. He did a spot on Leatherneck cosplay, and he 3D printed that gun to the T, and even the same color that the action figure version came with. It was fantastic.
very nice. Then we go to the last pages here, where Cobra Commander is reunited with his son. And again, this was my first introduction to Billy. I read this before I read the digest, because I read the earlier issues in the digest form. And I do love this scene here that, we get Cobra Commander actually crying over what he's done to his, not necessarily that his son's injured. I'm sure it's part of it, but also just the fact that he's coming to terms with what he has done to his son. And as Destro says, well, you've had him killed, you've had him declared an outlaw. Where's that at again?
Yeah, and at the very last panel, while Cobra Commander's on his knees and he's sad, Destro says, "You imprisoned him, outlawed him, and even subjugated him to Dr. Venom's brainwave scanner." Keep saying Venom instead of Mindbender. "You drove him into nightmare existence. Don't you think I know that?"
Well, at the time, it was Dr. Venom's brainwave scanner.
Yeah.
Dr. Venom, was one that created it. Dr. Mindbender's just modified it. And
he's borrowing it. The line, though, that I like after that Cobra Commander says, quote, "True villainy lies not in the commission of evil, but in denial of it.
Yes.
I should have loved him better. How can he ever forgive me?" And Destro says, "You can't change the past. Let it go. But do something about the future." Very cool. I love the way that it makes you kind of like feel sad for Cobra Commander a little bit. I mean, come on.
That's one thing. I say this about John Oster with the Suicide Squad. Larry Hama does the same thing here. It makes you actually care for the bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, the cartoon, Commander's just a bumbling oaf, basically.
Villains are more interesting when you sympathize with them. That's why the Marvel MCU Thanos was a great character, because you sympathized with him. Maybe he was kind of right. It makes you start thinking about that. And this is just a great moment in Cobra Commander history throughout the comics.
Oh yeah,
humanizes him. It makes him vulnerable, and he got a new look out of it.
But I do like, that this actually, this last couple of pages kind of drives Cobra Commander's story forward for the next couple of issues.
Yeah.
And Cobra Commander's going through his redemption arc and becoming a new man, and maybe he'll give up Cobra and join the Joes and become a good guy. We'll see what happens in the future. Who knows what happens to Cobra Commander?
Who knows what's going to happen? Might need a reminder.
Anyways, but that's a great, and like you said, that's a great ending with Destro just walking out. You can't do nothing about the past. All you do is, look towards the future. And it's like, wow, very, very profound. And again, you expect no less from Destro. Destro's always been the more intellectual, the more even kill, the more, So yeah, definitely, it's a great ending to the story. And again, like I say, another reason besides the whole Cobra Commander and Destro Incognito, which I love, this whole, Cobra Commander actually weeping. I don't think we've ever seen that in the comic.
No,
Cobra Commander
that's a father realizing he did his son wrong,
Yes.
And his own interests were more important than his son,
Yep.
Yeah.
And he may have started off trying to do something good for his son when he started Cobra, because again, he got laid off or got fired or whatever it was. And he's trying, make life better. But somewhere along the way, he lost his way, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
And now he's realizing the error, and, his son almost died, and everything he's done to his son over the years. It's just, wow.
Yeah.
But that's the end of the issue. Then we have the letter column, and I think someone said something to me about something about we'll read one of the letters.
Yeah, the post office box of Pitt. There's a really good one in this because it kind of echoes what some fans were saying with certain, I guess, storylines were becoming a little less realistic. But this guy does it in a very clever way, and I wanted to read it. This is from David Eng, Engh, from Sparta, New Jersey. I'm not going to read his street address. He goes on, Mr. Hama and Company. G.I. Joe is my favorite comic, and I'm really gung-ho about it. You see where he's going with this, right? But there's a problem with it that makes me so mad. I'm turning scarlet. The comic just doesn't have the spirit it used to have because now it's filled with all sorts of high-tech sci-fi. G.I. Joe was originally billed as a realistic comic where only real-life devices would be used. Are you trying to pull a snow job? Because now G.I. Joe is filled with ridiculous junk, mutant plant spores, androids, wrestlers, resurrecting the dead. Get my point? What happened? Did someone throw a monkey wrench in the plans? Whoever did deserves a quick kick. Some high-tech stuff is good. It's interesting, but keeps the book from becoming boring and dusty. But it's getting way out of control. Bring back the balance of realism and futurism because G.I. Joe is becoming a real grunt to read. It's like rolling snake eyes. As you can tell, this problem has really set off my short fuse. So zap whoever's responsible and get it in a flash, or you might see some blood, B-L-U-D-D. Getting you folks take advice seems pretty difficult. You're as slippery as an eel. So tell us what your plans are because I can't tell Cobra who'd tell a viper. Please take this letter seriously. I don't want to have to put up my dukes and ace you because I'm pretty footloose kind of guy. I care about G.I. Joe so much, the fact that this is sealed with a kiss, but otherwise you're doing okay. So I won't take a torch to my collection yet. David, in the post office box of Pitt replies, help, I can't take this punishment.
Yes,
I'm sorry, but that's like one of the best letters I've ever seen published in post office box of Pitt. I thought it was great. I lost count of how many Joes and Cobras that guy mentioned in there, but it was fantastic. Anyway, go ahead.
The next letter I was talking about, I read the original issues in the digest format. The next letter talks about that. He said that in issue 51, someone mentioned about the digest, and they're saying the first digest will be on sale in September and reprint issues 1 and 2. So that's this one.
I love those digests. Trying to find them in good condition now is extremely hard. But man, those were fun to own. I love the little small size. And would you have like 5 or 10 issues per digest or something like that?
No, these were like 2 issues in the digest.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Those are so cool.
Yeah, no, that's how I read the early issues. I found the digest somewhere, so I was picking them up, and yeah, I love those. And also the first letter in here, someone asked about Snake Eye's name related to Cobra. He said there's no tie into Cobra with Snake Eye's name. In fact, he got his name before Cobra was really a thing.
Yeah.
They also asked who the corner guy is, and the editor or whatever is like, nobody ever told us who the Joe in the corner is supposed to be.
Up in the top left. To me, I always felt it was Grunt. Grunt's the normal looking Joe. That's who I always thought it was. Yeah.
But yeah, so according to the editor, they never really told him who that's supposed to be. So
gotcha.
No real.
The iconic green suited, Cobra. Yeah. Our Joe. Sorry.
So that was our thoughts on issue 55. We tend to ramble on a little bit longer about that one than we normally do, but well deserved. Next up is
The Real American Hero.
the this is a Joe or Cobra or someone else in the issue that did something that deserves some extra special attention, deserves a shout out. Kevin, who is your real American hero?
That's a tough one. I almost want to give it to Cobra Commander for showing some humanity about his son. You could obviously the easy one is probably Snake Eyes, creating a moment with all the guns, so they can evac his good friend Stalker out of there. That's an obvious choice. But I'm going to give some love to Lowlight. I think that he had a moment that shined here. He also had the had the Starlight scope that Stalker was going to use, and it made me want to see more of Lowlight. And a good friend Johnny K, who's also in the Finest, did a great costume of Lowlight, and I got to hang out with him when we did one of our what we call our Operation USS Yorktowns, where a bunch of us Finest members met in South Carolina, where they have the Yorktown aircraft carrier, and we all rented a big house together, and went and had some fun, and then we'd made some fun videos. But we would also go to the Yorktown in costume, and they knew who we were, and they would welcome us there. And there's like a cool little area with like a Vietnam little area where you can go but get your pictures taken with like helicopters and tanks and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, Johnny does a great Lowlight, so my vote is Lowlight.
Very nice, very nice. And like I said, you had some great ideas there. Snake Eyes, Cobra Commander, both easy choices, both definite step standing out in this issue. But I'm going to give it to Grunt. He's
good choice. Good choice. Yeah,
never to be seen again. So yeah, we're going to give it up for Grunt. Again, retiring but again, a few rare thing because usually when they want to get rid of a character, a lot of times they'll kill him off.
Yeah.
As we'll see in 50 some odd issues, but
right. The culling of characters.
Yeah. But yeah, Grunt, they allowed him to retire and move on with his life and grow and become a different person. So I'm definitely giving it to Grunt.
Well said.
Next section we have is the page of art. Again, something I stole from the Longbox Crusade. If you have any page of art out of here, which page of art would you pick?
There's two for me that really stand out. And obviously, the obvious one, of course, for me is the iconic Incognito Cobra Commander and Destro moment. And then the other one is seeing Snake Eyes go all commando while he's helping his buddies escape with the two guns. Just a shout out. I love Incognito Cobra Commander Destro in the yellow Corvette. But if I had to choose, it's going to be the one where they're changing into their Incognito outfits. It's, and you'll see why in a minute. But that's my choice. What about you, man? What's your favorite?
Well, I picked out 4 because I wasn't sure who was going to be here. So I had to pick out mine and a couple extras. The first one I picked, which is going to be mine, is page 10, where Dr. Mindbender was taking off Snake Eye's mask.
Ah, yes. Yeah, that's a good one.
The second one I have on here, and this is, so on my list, I have not edited. This is what I wrote when I went through this. Page 10, Mindbender take off Snake Eye's mask. Page 8 is probably Kevin's. And that's the one with the Cobra Commander changing into the incognito look. I knew you were
there.
I knew you were going
there. It's so iconic, man. It is so iconic, and you'll see why in a little bit. It's amazing. Yeah.
And then the last 2 I picked out just to have backups was page 13, where the cop was talking to Cobra Commander, and we're flashing back to Billy in the hospital.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
And then page 22, the last page with Cobra Commander laying by Billy's bedside, a tear rolling down his cheek. It's very touching. Yes.
Yeah, that's a great page. That's a really good page. Yeah.
I think I might pick is page 10, where he took off Snake Eye's mask and just the look of revulsion on their face.
Yeah.
But this had a lot of great pages to choose from, though. But yeah, I was going to pick page 8 at first, but I might know that's going to be Kevin's. Kevin's picking.
Why would you say that?
I don't know. A little crazy. So normally I do this later, but I've got it actually prepared for this time. I'm going to do Postbox the Pit. One time I was reading off everybody that commented or liked and all that. And I talked to a smart man smarter than I am, a better podcaster, that says probably going a bit too much, and not mentioning anyone's name's Kevin. But but no, I picked a few people I wanted to give a shout out to.
Yeah. This
is on Facebook. We have Ben Wiley, who's always posting pictures and comments on the page. Paul Cush, C-U-S-H. Maybe it's Kush. I think it's Kush. He's always posting nice pictures on the page and commenting. In fact, he posted one I really liked. It was a General Flag Thunder Machine.
Oh, nice. Very
Thunder
nice.
Machine ended up like the General Flag. So the General Lee, not General Flag, the General Lee.
Mm-hmm.
So, from the Dukes of Hazzard. Joe Jackson, Michael Minton. He posted a very nice Arashikage tattoo. Again, I've thought about getting that one. I'm just too big of a weenie. Jared
Was that the one that was in reply to the famous scene where you see both in the silent issue,
Yes.
where you see both Storm Shadow and
Snake Eyes
sharing the same tattoo, and then he posted his.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that. That was cool. Yeah.
I've thought about getting that tattoo. I don't like needles, and I don't know. I'm still fighting with myself about that. Because I'd like to get that. It'd be a nice tattoo. Jared Rollins, who's posted several YouTube-related videos. Lily Cohen, who's always posting whenever Hasbro Pulse has their new releases. She's always posting pictures of those. Thank
very
you for
cool.
that, Lily. Some guy, I can't read his name, Kevin Reitzel. No, I had to give a shout out to Kevin. He's always posting his finest photos, which I love seeing the guys dressing up as different Joes and Cobras. So please, Kevin, keep that up.
I recently had WonderCon in LA,
Right.
and I couldn't make it to that because I'm going to be going to Australia soon. And our Coastal Defense Command was there, was full support, and we had some great pictures from that, and then of course, from other ones as well. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, and the fact I think that's how we got together was you sharing your pictures of your.
Yeah. Some nerd started sharing his shipwreck pictures on your Facebook page back in 2017.
Yeah.
Look at this. I'm a G.I. Joe.
Milo Pantone. He's always commenting on posts on the group. Don Man Art has 3D printables. And Corey Michael Buckert. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. He's always posting his G.I. Joe custom pieces.
Nice.
So some of the guys on Facebook.
I love seeing G.I. Joe custom pieces, man. Those are so cool. Yeah.
I don't do much on Instagram or Twitter just because, or in Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, just because I'm horrible at social media. But I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Headcast Network. And I've got some people on there I want to mention. I've got my free subscribers on there right now. D1, Heinz K, Brian Weebler, Mark Ross, and Cosplay Dad. And then I've got people that's helping out. Gene Hendricks, a good podcasting buddy of mine. I've podcasted with him several times. And our big donor on there is Big Danny Cool.
Nice.
So thank you, Big Danny Cool. In fact, this episode is sponsored by Big Danny Cool.
All right, Danny. Awesome.
Speaking of which, he sent an email in. I want to read. Again, I didn't put two and two together until I got to look. Oh, that's the same guy. Okay. So I had an email from a Danny Derry Berry, a.k.a. Big Danny Cool. He says, "Hey, Head, love your show. My 6-year-old, Gunner, was really harping on me how he wished I still had my old G.I. Joe toys, i.e. the common story of us who enjoyed the original run, and I finally decided we should go to a local vintage store or vintage shop. By the end of the visit, we had an All-Striker, a Hiss Tank, and about 4 packages of Valor versus Venom.
Dang, nice haul.
Yes. Fast forward, are both consumed with anything that falls in the 3.75 to 4-inch category. We planned our trip to the Dallas Joe Con in June, Friday night, of course, and Homeboy has already saved up to $68 of his own money to wheel and deal at the show."
That's good parenting right there.
Oh yeah, very much. Yeah, very much so. Can't tell you how thrilled I am to be reliving the magic with my son. And I was really glad to find your show, join your Patreon, and I hope you are able to grow there. Look forward to binging your back catalog. So be expecting some feedback from episodes you've completely forgotten about. Cheers. And he had a PS. I like anything Joe's, but it's become more almost classified specific. I find your show much more well-rounded. Well, Thank you very much, Danny. I appreciate the thoughts, the letter. I love hearing from listeners, and I love hearing Joe origin stories, and especially something like this where a father is sharing the love with his kids.
I think I go back to issue number 5 with the tank. I think that was my first time coming on the show, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'll back and look, but yeah, I believe so. It sounds about right. But in fact, yeah, he said that he wouldn't mind coming on the show. So let me know if there's any issues.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, love to have.
I love hearing from people. That's part of my problem is I get people on and I don't ask them to leave. I keep inviting them back, and
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know, Kevin. I enjoy talking to people, and especially I say Kevin's got his fantastic, not only stories but his pictures, and just I love the love people have for G.I. Joe. So it's just fantastic.
Such a fun property.
Oh, very much so. And the way that, you can reach out and you can make friends with people that, you either would never met otherwise, or, I say Kevin was in Georgia for the longest time. Now he's finally back in California. We met up once. I'll do it again sometime, but
Yeah.
when you get some free time from Australia, but yeah, it's just, meeting people from all over the country that you wouldn't normally talk to. So
The finest family of fellow costumers is some of my closest friends, and I love them dearly.
Also, I'm going to do this month. It's been a couple months since I've done this. The Soldier of the Month. This is a Joe. This is one of somebody that's done something special for the show, or that's given some love, or given me something for it.
Nice.
Well, I said one time a toy store I went to gave me hydrofoil, and so I had him as my.
I remember that. That was so cool that they did that. They're like, they hooked you up. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was looking around, I said, I do a G.I. Joe pop. Oh, really? Yeah. Just look. I don't got the money right now, but just looking. I'd been in the shop before a pandemic, and I want to go back and see what was going on here. And he's like, oh, you want this here? Oh, sure, thank you. It's missing a few pieces, but hey, it's a nice starter set. But so this month, the Soldier of the Month, I've mentioned him several times already on this episode. Big Danny Cole. For
Danny.
Being a great, fantastic father, a listener to the show, a Patreon member. Just thank you very much, Danny. You're a great guy, and we appreciate you. And yeah, definitely, I'll be in touch with you, and we'll get you on an upcoming episode. To our Soldier of the Month, all of us here at the G.I. Joe, a Real American Headcast, and at the Headcast Network Studio, we salute you. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back to finish off the show with the cartoon.
G.I. Joe will return after these messages.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blood of Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our Fandom Flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville Show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr. If you're a history lover or a musical lover, you probably know about both Hamilton and Burr's rise to power in the early stages of American history and their infamous duel. But what if you didn't know the full story? What if one of them was a werewolf? White Rocket Entertainment proudly presents a 48-page full-color comic book, Hamilton vs. Burr, A Werewolf Tale. Written by Jared Albrecht, the yard sale artist, art by Nate Niles, colors by Ace Wheely and Ken Solomon, letters by Percival Constantine, and edited by Johanna Albrecht. Hamilton vs. Burr, A Werewolf Tale. Available digitally on Kindle and Comics Central, COMIX Central. Prefer a print copy? Hamilton vs. Burr, A Werewolf Tale, along with my other published works, are available at theyardsaleartist.big theyardsaleartist.bigcartel.com. That's theyardsaleartist.bigcartel.com. Or you can buy it directly from me, creator Jared Albrecht, the Yard Sale Artist, at any of my Comic-Con appearances. Hamilton vs. Burr, A Werewolf Tale. Get your copy today. You won't regret it. Don't take my word for it. Here's what Ming Chen from AMC's TV series Comic Book Men had to say about it.
I really enjoyed it. A lot of great werewolf scenes in here. A lot of great... this is how I wish history would be told to kids. Books like Hamilton vs. Burr, A Werewolf Tale.
That's Hamilton vs. Burr, A Werewolf Tale.
Oh, hi, Dr. Sterner.
Hello, Paul. How are you doing these days?
Yeah, I'm good. Since you, cured me of my DC OCD, I've got so much more time on my hands. It's been for the best.
Well, personally and professionally, I'm quite proud of what we have achieved, but I have some bad news for you, Paul.
Oh? What?
There's something missing without your DC OCD there.
Oh.
I've even heard friends of yours been saying you're basic, a little boring. There's no there there.
Oh, well, what should we do about it?
My God, I hate to have to say this, but we have to go bring it back somehow.
Well, shall we do some more sessions and I can use them to talk about DC events that we haven't covered, like Dark Crisis and Fear State, those sorts of things.
I think that might be for the best, Paul. Let's reconvene in 2024 for more sessions of DC OCD.
And that'll make me interesting?
We will see, Paul. We will see. Now back to G.I. Joe.
So, welcome back to G.I. Joe, a Real American Headcast. Hope you enjoy those shows. There's some great shows in there. Normally, I would go to the cartoon, but before we get to that, Kevin, again, the reason we met originally on the show and why I had to have you on for this episode. Would you like to talk about this?
Yes. So if you're watching this on YouTube, that is a picture of me dressed up as incognito Cobra Commander. And this came about in a really kind of interesting way was when I was, when I got accepted into the Finest, my first costume was original Shipwreck action figure, the 3 3/4 inch ones. And I wanted to do a costume that no one had done before. And I started thinking about this issue. And I'm like, has anyone done an incognito Cobra Commander? Because we have so many different awesome costumers in the Finest that have done the hooded Cobra Commander, have done even the armored one or the metal helmet. And they've been fantastic. But I was like, has anyone done the incognito one? So I was thinking to myself, well, look, if I do this costume, I want to challenge myself. I want to, first of all, make it an affordable costume. This is mostly going to come from thrift store shopping because I always go into thrift stores. I look for physical media and stuff like that. So I'm always in thrift stores. And this is while I was in Georgia. And I said, if I find that blue coat, I will start it. And so I started going to all the thrift stores in Georgia at the time. And I found this blue coat. And I took a picture of it. And I posted it in the closed Facebook group for the Finest members, the G.I. Joe Finest members, saying, guys, what do you think? And then I posted a picture of incognito, and everyone was like, yes, 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 you must try. So I bought the coat. I just had to extend the sleeves a little bit, and there was some room to do that. I as a costumer, if you have a very good person that an alteration expert, which I did in Georgia, a woman named Lisa, she did that for me. And I said, well, I can put together the other parts. So I found the glasses that would go over my normal glasses, which was great because he wears these large glasses. And I found the vest, the yellow vest. I found the tie, which was clip-on, and I found the shirt, and I found that little yellow belt that goes around that matches the same color as the yellow vest. And I found some pinstripe pants. And the only problem is I couldn't find those darn boots. So I just found some nice leather crimson color boots, and I just used those basically. And then I decided to sew on this Cobra signet on there to kind of make it obvious who I was in case other people didn't know the character. But I tell you right now, I first premiered this costume at the 2017 Joe Fest. I'm sorry, excuse me. No, it was Joe Atlanta, as they call it. It's a very small convention in Atlanta, specifically around G.I. Joe stuff. And Larry Hama always comes to it because he loves it. It's a small little convention. He's able to do his sketches that he charges like about, I think, like 30 or 40 or $50 for. And I showed up in costume, and I said, "Hi, Larry." And he immediately pulls out his camera like, "Do you know who I am?" And he goes, "I know who you are." And he takes a picture and he posts it on his Facebook and Twitter or Instagram or what it is, where Larry had been faking it all my life. And he says, "Somebody was incognito at Joe Atlanta." And his post blew up. It was great. And so he took that picture of me. That is Larry Hama taking that picture. And then I got a picture with him. And then I had him do a sketch of that pose.
Very
and
nice.
Every time I've done that picture, after I did that picture, one of my good friends, it's in my Georgia garrison of my G.I. Joe costume group, is my friend Noel Wood, who did a really cool scrap iron. He did a bunch of other cool G.I. Joes. He's like, "Dude, let me do incognito Destro." And we'll do that. And we did it at Dragon Con the next year. And then we did it. And there's the picture of him to the right. We actually had trading cards made of us together. And normally when we did trading cards, you would only have one person on the trading card. But this was the first time when the Finest did the trading cards that 2 people were on it. And so that's what we did. We did a trading card with Incognito, Cobra Commander, and Destro. And Noel killed it with the Destro. And we went to the last convention, the G.I. Joe convention, as I mentioned, that was in Chattanooga. Everybody there knew who we were and got pictures with us. And we were a hit. And there were some great pictures of us gambling. Yeah, there it is. Let me show that up right there. And as you know, I think you liked the costume as well. It was a hit.
Very much, man. I think you both hit it out of the park. You both did a fantastic job on it.
There you go.
Yeah, I love the trading card. Very nice. Thank you for that. Yes.
I gave you one of these, right?
Yes, you did. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
These are in limited supply though, not like my Major Blood and other ones. These came in a smaller print run, so these are hard to find anyway.
Very nice. Anything else you want to say about your Finest?
Oh, I just want to thank you for your support of it. You were always liked it, and I love pulling that out time to time. I got the big like glue-on mustache, and I have the fake wig that's a ponytail that I put on as well. It's a fun one to do because if you're a G.I. Joe fan, you know. If you know, you know. If you're not a big G.I. Joe fan, but you know some of the characters, you don't know who he is. But
right.
Everyone who knows has that issue. They go, "No way!" And I love that recognition when I do that one.
Yes.
It's great. I love it. So I would love to have a classified version of those characters, like in a 2-pack. I would die and go to heaven if that were to happen.
I doubt we get a 2-pack because they didn't even do that for the twins. So
yeah, I know, right?
I've got the twins, but it'd been nicer. They would have packed them with a 2-pack, have the little mirrors like they originally did, and
yeah.
And that was they lost out on that. But
by the way, that whole costume, I think I ordered the beret,
right,
and I got the shoes, all under $100.
Oh, very nice.
And that was the point of doing that costume. I said, if I'm going to do that costume, it's going to be cheap because most costumes are over $100 if you're going to do it good. But that jacket was $10. That coat was $10. The shoes were probably the most expensive. They were like $20, $25, I think. The pants were like $4 or $5. The clip-on tie was like $1. It was just trying to find that matching belt. Took me a little while. The first pictures I took, I didn't have that matching belt. Finally found it. Beret was like maybe $20. So $100. There you go. And how iconic it became. Anyway.
Fantastic. I love it, man. Thank you very much for sharing not only the pictures, but the story with it. I love hearing about that. That's fantastic.
Thank you for allowing me to, man. One of my funnest moments in costuming.
So let's go move on to the next section of the show. Try that again. I'm having a problem with English all the time. Let's go ahead and move on to the next section of the show.
Yo, Joe! He'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe, American hero. G.I. Joe is there. It's G.I. Joe against Cobra, the enemy, fighting to save the day. He never gives up. He's always there, fighting for freedom over land and air. G.I. Joe, American hero. G.I. Joe is there.
G.I. Joe is the code name for America's daring, highly trained Special Mission Force. Its purpose, to defend human freedom against Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world.
In never gives up, he'll stay till the fight's won. G.I. Joe will dare. G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe.
So this is the Primordial Plot. This was directed by John Gibbs and Terry Lennon. Writer was Donald F. Glutt. First aired November the 12th, 1985. And the synopsis is much smaller than the one for the comic. Cobra steals a scientist and dinosaur bones to create their own dinosaur army. So that is the synopsis for the Primordial Plot.
It's the one with the dinosaurs. If you're a kid, you love dinosaurs, right? This is what this one was famous for.
So, Kevin, do you have thoughts on this?
Oh, I've got.
Do you have thoughts?
Paper notes thoughts. But I also brought along my favorite dinosaur, the Ankylosaurus. This guy.
Very nice.
I think a version of him made a cameo in this episode, and this one also makes a noise.
Very nice.
He didn't come with this guy though from the Jurassic Park movies. Jeff Goldblum, he's ready. So yes, this is the one with the dinosaurs. I remember this episode, the Primodrial Plot. I always keep mispronouncing it, but this was one of those episodes, and
I'm bad at saying names and words, so I keep wondering if I'm mispronouncing it.
Primodrial Plot, I guess. Yeah.
So I call it Primordial. But...
Yeah, Primordial. Yeah, maybe you're right. Primordial. Yeah, there you go. That sounds better. So this was one of those episodes. I don't know if you remember in past episodes that we've done where I used to audio record on a cassette tape episodes. So I would have an audio version of them. This was one of those that made it onto my tapes. And I picked some screenshots here for you from the episode. But this is the one with the dinosaurs. And I was always a dinosaur fan. I love that in the beginning we get Wild Weasel getting them bones. I don't know what jet that was because that was not his Rattler, which was based off the A-10. Right. And also, too, I love that watch that the Cobra CG Crimson Guard had, the little Cobra watch, and he like says he does a little signal on it like he's getting ready to capture the scientist. But I got a question though: did the Cobra Crimson Guard have to reveal himself when kidnapping the scientist? Like, aha, I'm Cobra. And he rips off his suit and he makes a big entrance about it. It was very theatrical. I thought that was kind of funny. I'm like, what, and what Fred was he? I don't know. Was he a Fred? I don't know. He had the blonde hair. I thought that was funny. But side note, there's always tropes when it comes to these G.I. Joe cartoons, whether it was Duke getting captured or whatever, or, the Baroness in disguise. Side note, yet another scientist gets kidnapped by Cobra. And the way it happens is a Cobra Fang and a Cobra officer come in, and then there's a net, and then the Cobra CG guy, Crimson Guard, voluntarily gets in the net with the science, and he gets taken away, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
Now, this episode is famous for a few reasons, and we'll touch on one of those reasons shortly. This episode has some weird, as I call it, shaky animation.
Oh, there's the picture of the Crimson Guard undressed.
Yeah, it's like, ha! Why didn't he just stay in the outfit and just, do that anyway? So at the 3:23 mark in here, right here, leave it on here on this slide here, when the Joes walk in the command center wondering why Cobra is stealing dinosaur bones, Scarlet's leggings change from her uniform gray to flesh tone really quickly. And it's really weird because when they turn to flesh tone, then it looks like she's just wearing like a one-piece bathing suit. It's really weird.
But Kevin, I have to ask. Hot.
Yeah, it was pretty hot actually. Yeah. Hot.
Sorry. I have to ask.
So Cobra is cloning dinosaurs in an island in the South Pacific. Let's just mention maybe this is where Michael Crichton got the idea. I don't know, because this came out in 85, 86 or something like that. And this is before Jurassic Park. I'm just saying.
I'm going to talk about that. I've got notes.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure who that was, if it was Tripwire that was informing them about the accelerated dinosaur growth when they thought that, like, because the comment that Gung Ho makes is like, oh, we don't have to worry about them getting big because by then we're going to be retired. But it turned out it was, what was the character? Sorry, lost my space here. Where is it? I'll come back to that. But there was another. It was another GI Joe that was part of it. Maybe it's in here. I'll come back to it later. Maybe it was it Flint? No, Airtight. It was Airtight that was the one that mentioned that. I get Airtight mixed up sometimes. So, and I got a question for just people in general, and of course yourself, Mr. Aaron.
Sir,
Where does Cobra find these awesome island bases?
I don't. There's so many different islands out there. It's probably, if you got the money and the resources and the manpower.
Is that some like, Crimson Guardsman or like Cobra Scout? Like, does he have a realtor? Does he go, finally, I need another island. This one's been compromised.
Well, maybe that's what the twins do.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe that's one of their jobs. Because that mountain hideout, that one's been compromised.
Yeah.
I realized too, I love the classic Cobra laser rifles in these cartoons. They're cheesy. It's kind of like the awesome kind of tan colored GI Joe laser rifles now have become very I love seeing those. I love those Cobra laser rifles. I just think that they're cool.
Yep.
And I just think it's interesting that you got these. You need a GI Joe team to find out what the Cobras are doing. We just got 3. We got Flint, Gung Ho, and Scarlet. They head to the secret Cobra Island, right?
Right.
They're both flying Sky Strikers, and they all get shot down. Flint almost dies, but he is able to crash his Sky Striker into water without a chute. He survives, though. I love the scene when they're like cloning the eggs, and you get the little tiny dinosaurs. They're so cute. Little tiny Triceratops. I'm like, aw, they're so cute. I thought the line that Gung Ho was funny said, Gung Ho has some primal urges to satisfy. I'm like, oh crap, where's he going with this? And his top 2 were food and shelter.
Yeah, I was wondering that myself.
There was another shaky animation alert here. This is at the 9:06 mark where Gung Ho, Scarlet, and Flint are stationary walking. They're walking through the jungle, but the back area is not moving. So it just looks like they're just doing this. And I love the line that Destro says. I think he says this in almost every other episode, but in a different way. He goes, your plans are useless without my genius, Cobra Commander.
Yeah, very Destro, very.
And there's that little device, and I think you had a picture of it in the hand. I love how Cobra Commander has a little device, and he uses dinosaurs, do my thing. Then we get the dinosaurs attacking the Joes, and Gung Ho versus the dinos, and I love how Gung Ho's smart, and he shoots the cameras so that Cobra Commander can't direct them basically. But then you get Scarlet figuring out they just want the food. They're hungry. They're dinosaurs. They're brand new dinosaurs. They need food, right? And I like how the smaller raptor attacks because he's able to go into the cave that the Joes escaped to because the other dinos are too big. But all he wants is the food in the backpack.
Prime urges.
And Scarlet uses her arrow gun and sticks some piece of food on it and is able to shoot it out. The Crimson Guardsmen are like, what kind of weapon is this? And they realize there's food on the end of it. And that's where the dinosaurs attack. I thought that was great. And they attack the Crimson Guardsmen that are driving the ferrets, which I thought was great. And Cobra can't order the dinos to attack. But I like how he puts a little thing up to his head or near his ear, and he attacks. Yeah. It says attack, which I thought was cool. Gung Ho and Scarlet get captured, but I think this is by design. Flint blows a hole so the dinos can attack the headquarters, which I thought was cool. Then Scarlet gets a hold of the device and orders the dinos to attack, which I thought was great. And then she gives it to the doctor, Dr. Massey, and he says, the dinos, we have food. And they just want food. And go to the famous, this is the famous shaky animation alert. There we go. If you're watching the video, you see the dino crash through the wall into the Cobra's cafeteria. And this has made it as in a GIF. It's famous online because people call out how bad the animation is. It almost like they took a vacation, a day off. They didn't quite finish their work on this particular episode. But it's a famous goof. 20 minutes in, the dino crashes through the wall while the Cobras are eating lunch. The wall appears normal afterward. And then as they're crashing through, the white cafeteria tables just disappear. And then I love that you see the dinos start eating food in the cafeteria. I think that's great. And then my last couple of notes is the Crimson Twins. This is really funny. I think I have a picture of it. Yes, I do. Where the dino, there it is. This is funny. The Crimson Twins escape holding on to each of Destro's feet as he rockets away through the window.
Yeah, look, I'm out here like, that's a good idea. Let's go, brother. You hold on to his feet. Yeah, he's dragging him through the air.
And there are rockets on his wrist, I guess, that he's using like a little rocket backpack, but on his wrist, which is so funny. And then my last question is to you and the people that are listening to this and watching this is, so the dinos are staying on the island. What happens next? It just ends. You're leaving the dinos on this island. Are you sequestering them? Are you cultivating this island?
I'm assuming the government is going to step in and take control of the island and
maybe send in Crocmaster. I don't know. I don't know. What happens to this island? Do we ever return to it?
This is a couple years before Crocmaster. Maybe this is where he came from.
Yeah, I mean, this is before Jurassic Park, guys. It's already starting their own Jurassic Park here on this island. Because then the credits roll. It's done.
It's over.
Anyway, those are my notes. Long-winded, but that's what came to my mind.
I don't have quite as many as you do, and I've got some of the ones that are the same ones that are, you've made, but let's go through it. It seems that archaeology is very aggressive when whoever showed up to steal the bones, and they start shooting at him. Yeah. The doctor's like, I thought we paid everybody off. Yes. How damn aggressive is it? If you don't pay them off, they're going to come shoot you.
As we know, archaeology is very competitive. We learned that in Indiana Jones. Belloc was always the guy to come take this prize away from Indiana Jones. So, yeah, it's hardcore. Nazis get involved. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'm telling you. As you mentioned, I was curious about that myself, so I looked it up. I'm thinking Michael Crichton may have watched this episode. This came out in 1985. The Jurassic Park novel came out in November of 1990.
There you go. Yeah. I think we're onto something here.
I'm thinking maybe Michael Crichton is a G.I. Joe fan, but I'm thinking.
There you go. Prove us wrong, people.
My next comment on here, my controls are jammed. Didn't we hear this previously in another episode? When it was Scarlet. Controls are jammed. She was faking it to
my controls are jammed.
And then you mentioned when they Flint crashed his jet into the water. I love Scarlet. She's a great character. I don't know how well of a teammate she is. She was ready to give up on him. I was like, Flint. Oh, he's dead. Let's go.
Go find his corpse and get his backpack of food at least.
We go check and see if he's dead. God.
He's dead. Let's go.
Yeah. What the hell? I do like Gung Ho making a comment saying this is why he left home when they're out. You should be right at home here in the swamps. That's why I left. I thought made me laugh. Something that made me scratch my head. I was hoping that Jared would be here so I get some military authenticity. But the Joes seemingly not knowing how to travel in the woods when they were looking for the base, and they're like, "How do we know we're not traveling in circles?" Oh, you're fucking military. Weren't you trained in this kind of stuff?
This is where I poke fun at like the choice of Joes for these missions. Couldn't you have taken at least Recondo or someone with some jungle experience? Snake Eyes, come on, you Stalker. Yeah. How about Stalker? What happened to Stalker?
Yeah, that whole how do we know we're not traveling in circles? Oh, you're military. Weren't you trained for this type of stuff? Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. Something I learned this episode. Apparently, the Crimson Guards are unionized. Never would have guessed it.
I had that on here. I had that on here, and I forgot to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're unionized. Huh. My next note.
That is so funny. They were on a break, just sitting there, drinking coffee and some donuts, and hanging out. I just thought it was so funny just to see them hanging. Yeah, there they are, right up there in the top left-hand corners, hanging out, coffee and donuts.
Yeah, I love that union. What the hell? I would imagine that. My next note is something you talked about extensively. The dinos are coming through the wall in the mess hall. The wall reappears, and then the next thing we know, the dinosaurs are walking through a complete wall.
So we get this one. This is the sketchy animation episode, other than just the dinosaurs. We get this one. We get the ones where the Joes are walking in the jungle. but they're standing still because the background isn't moving. And then we get the is Scarlet wearing a swimsuit or not? It just happens for a second. Watch it. It's funny.
I think it was this one because I watched a couple episodes, but I believe this one here, the twins, their ties or something changes from red to gray also.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, as you said, some bad animation in this one. And my final thought on this is maybe we can open a museum. Yeah, Michael Crichton watched this up. Michael Crichton watched this.
Oh my God! I mean, they even talk about the cloning and everything. Like Cobra Commander says, each bone fragment has enough cells to clone an infinite number of living dinosaurs. Therefore, I suggest you begin now. Infinity is a very big number.
Yeah, no, cloning dinosaurs, a museum, an island with dinosaurs on it.
I have to think, though, Aaron, that this wasn't an original idea when this episode came out. So did the writers, like, did this come from something else? That's why I'm kind of curious. Like, where did Crichton get the idea from if it wasn't G.I. Joe? I'm going to go with G.I. Joe. So
it's not mine. Just I like that. I like G.I. Joe. Yeah. But there's always been movies about dinosaurs, and it's a running theme with American media.
Yeah, I mean, we had Land of the Lost growing up when we were a kid. I was fascinated with dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs.
So it may have not been G.I. Joe he watched, but since this is a G.I. Joe podcast, I'm saying it's G.I. Joe he watched.
Yep, there you go.
But yeah, so those were my thoughts on it. Was it again? I had one final thought. I forgot to mark it down here. I mentioned it last episode. Cobra Law was too far.
They might have fit in a little bit better too,
Last episode we had them dealing with Egyptian gods. This episode we're dealing with reanimated dinosaurs. Yeah, people say Cobra Law G.I. Joe went too far. Seriously?
I made a comment in the last episode about how like they're always kidnapping scientists. Why don't they just hire their own, instead of like, I'm kidnapping a dinosaur, Cobra.
People are too smart to work for Cobra. Scientists are too smart. That's why they're scientists. They're too smart to work for Cobra.
Maybe you're right. Yeah.
Except for what was that one? Dr. Evil or Doctor was that one that worked with Cobra to get to his girlfriend that they had like very evil type names. I forget now. It's been a while back. But
it's been a while. Yeah.
But yeah, they don't have scientists of their own.
This was always a memorable episode for me, especially the name, because I always butchered the name. Primordial Plot. I guess that's what it is. I kept saying it the other way. But I just remember it was the one with the dinosaurs. And thus I always found entertaining. And looking at it with a different lens, being an older person now, is hilarious, but a lot of fun.
We mock a lot of the stuff in these cartoons, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. The cartoon's what a lot of us fell in love with.
Yes.
That's what a lot of us into. That's what was my gateway drug, was the cartoon.
And hey, we're buying toys because of it as well,
Yes. No, I lots of toys I've got.
There you go. Yeah. The Baroness. Nice.
For $5 at Walmart.
Dude, nice score. Yeah. And those ferrets, man, those are such cool Cobra vehicles.
I got one pre-ordered.
The four-wheeled all-terrain vehicles. I love those.
Yes, I can't wait for that. Yeah, I love that. Not as much as the Trouble Bubble, but yeah, I've got one pre-ordered. So, but anyways, unless you have other thoughts on the cartoon and or the comic book, Kevin.
I just want to say thank you for having me on and being able to talk about Unmaskings. This was one of those issues I was looking forward to more than certain ones, and for obvious reasons. And it holds a special place in my heart, not just because of the comic. And I remember when I first got it, as you saw, I met Stan Lee because that was the issue that happened to come out, and I had him sign my copy. And nice. Being inspired to do a G.I. Joe costume with the finest G.I. Joe costume group that no one had done before. And we always love it when we have creative costumers that do a costume that no one's done before, and they nailed it. And I got a lot of positive feedback from that, and it's special moment in my fandom.
You said no one's done it before. Have you seen it since? Has anyone tried to do it since you've done it? No, you still very good.
Someone told me, said, yeah, I don't want to do it because Kevin's done it. And no, I'm serious. Some people have said that because they're like, no, I don't want to do it. Kevin's done it. He's nailed it. Why, Yeah. And it's not like a hooded version or a helmeted version, because when you go to a big GI Joe meetup, it's nice to have a Cobra Commander of some type,
Right.
and that's always reserved for those versions of Cobra Commander. But I've had a couple people tell me, I'm glad no one else has done it because Kevin's done it and Kevin's done it right, and there's a few out there, people like, oh, he did a scrap iron, dude nailed it. I don't know if I could do it that good,
Right.
But it's funny because anyone could do the Cobra Commander. It's easy to do. You just got to find the freaking blue coat, And I will be honest with you. What I didn't mention, that blue coat is actually a woman's coat, but it's a large woman's coat.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you nailed it with that. It's fantastic. I was just curious when you kept saying that no one's done it before. I'm like, no one done it since.
I did forget to mention there was a fellow finest member, and if I'll hold the picture up. The famous hair dryer weapon that Cobra Commander has from the original action figure. I did have one of those printed up, and I posed with it with this picture because that iconic hair dryer laser whatever gun that he has, I do have that as part of the costume. So yeah,
very nice.
But anyway, Unmaskings, baby, there you go. I hope we did this issue justice.
Same here. Yes, great issue, and I think you did a great job. Thank you again very much for joining me on this episode, Kevin. I always enjoy talking to you. I love seeing your cosplays, but yeah, I knew I had, no matter what happened, I had to have you on for this episode.
I appreciate that.
Deaths and lawsuits and all that aside, I had to have you on because again, I love your cosplay, so I knew you had to be here to talk about it. So
thank you.
So Kevin, I guess we're about done for the day. Would you like to tell the people out there at home where they can go if they want to listen or hear more of you?
Yeah, please check us out on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel. That's where we have several shows under the Fandom Podcast Network umbrella. We have a Star Wars podcast. We have a Star Trek and Orville podcast. One of the podcasts I host is our Highlander podcast called Blood of Kings. And we also do a movie podcast called Couch Potato Theater. And one of my favorites is Time Warp, where we look at an entire year of movies, and it's a monthly show. And right now we're celebrating the movies of 1984 and all of the pop culture around them, the TV shows that came out around the same time, the sports, the music, one of my favorites there. And so make sure you check out the Fandom Podcast Network. You got a lot of shows. My friend Adam does an action film podcast called The Lethal Mullet. And he's one of my Australian brothers, and I'm going to be visiting him soon when I go visit my wife as well, because my wife is from there as well. So yeah, check it out. We're also on every podcast catcher, and you can find me on Facebook, of course, under Kevin Reitzel, and you can also find me on Instagram, X, Letterboxd, Discord, all under Spartan_Phoenix. And yes, that is a Demolition Man reference, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Great movie. Yeah, while you're down there, I forget when David's down there in Australia somewhere. You ought to see where he's at if you're in his area.
Yeah, I got to hook up with him. I think he's near Sydney, though. I'm not going to Sydney, but
I forget.
I'd love to hook up with him sometime.
I've got another friend over on another part of Australia. Hayden and I talk over my Quantum Leap podcast. So
nice.
So very nice. But yeah, so again, for me, I'm a Headcast Network. Right now, again, my website's still down. I'm still figuring out what I'm going to do with that. But I'm on Facebook. Facebook.com/groups/GI Joe. I've also got Facebook.com/groups/Headcast Network. We have the YouTube page, which is youtube.com/@g.i.joe_headcast. I'm on X. I'm also on Twitter. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm on
Instagram.
Twitter and X and Instagram. Again, I don't do as much on there as I should. I need to work on that better. But again, it's all under G.I. Joe Headcast or just Headcast Network. And again, you can email me at gijoe@headspeaks.com. Again, I've got my main domain I'm using for right now, gijoe@headspeaks.com. If you want to have any thoughts, as I mentioned earlier, you go to patreon.com/Headcast Network. If you're enjoying what we're doing here, throw a few bucks in the tin. But yeah, so definitely let us know what you guys think. As Kevin asked, did we do this episode or this issue justice? I know it's not a landmark issue. It's not, the 50th issue or the 100th issue. But yeah, to both me and Kevin, this is a very special.
For fandom, I think it is a landmark issue. It definitely is.
So again, I don't know if it's just, that's my thoughts. But again, I know sometimes I don't agree with fandom all the times. But me and you agree on it. So that's all that really counts. So. But that's going to do it for this month. Join us all We'll be back next month to talk about issue 56 and the cartoon, which I forgot to notate which one it was next month.
I think the next episode of the cartoon is Flint's Vacation.
There you go. That's it. Now that you mentioned it, yeah, it's us. But join us. And then, and again, we also have Bravo Team. I've got all my other shows. Definitely join us here on the Headcast Network. We got everything from Quantum Leap, Voyagers, which is almost ending. We just recorded the last episode of the actual series. And I got one or two more episodes left to finish that show off. I got my Task Force X, where I talk about the Suicide Squad, the Starman Adventure Hour or Adventure Show, where I talk about the Starman, the Will Payton Starman comic. And then Head Speaks, my main show, where I'm still covering the Power of the Atom. Almost done with that. I've got a new segment I've been putting in there, retrospective of the 80s, because again, much like Kevin, the 80s is one of the greatest time periods around. And I enjoy that. So I'm going to be talking about that on and off. Again, that was really going to be a show the wife and I was doing, but I just didn't have time for another show. So
I know how that feels. By the way, my buddy Kyle, who's the co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, he just wanted to give you a shout out. He appreciates the work that you do as well. Also a fellow huge G.I. Joe fan. So yeah.
Yes, we've had Kyle on the Bravo Team shows, and
yeah, again,
I've got an open invitation. I know Kyle in his real life right now is really hectic right now, up until tomorrow at least. So.
He works in the tax business, if you catch the drift, because this is April recording. So yeah. But anyway, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, dude. It was nice.
Oh, always, man. Glad to have you on. Glad you could free some time to talk with me. You have a safe trip when you go to the land down under.
Thank you, sir.
And make sure you come back so we can talk some more G.I. Joe. But until next time, I am Aaron. And remember, knowing is half the battle.
Yo, Joe!
Hi, doggy. Nice doggy. Here, boy. Come on. Hi, fella. Hey!
Don't run!
What?
Walk away slowly.
He tried to bite me.
Never try to pet an animal you don't know. He may be lost, sick, or scared.
You mean he might be dangerous?
That's right. If we don't know, we leave him alone.
And we don't get bit. Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
G.I. Joe, a Real American Headcast, is available monthly on iTunes, Stitcher, and at headspeaks.com. All characters and stories are owned and trademarked by their respective owners. We claim no ownership other than our opinions. All audio and images are used for entertainment purposes and falls under fair use. We make no money from this headcast. For more of the monthly G.I. Joe, check out the IDW series. For the stories we're covering, look for the comics and trade paperbacks. Let us know what you think. Send us an email letting us know your thoughts. Joe's dismissed.